Okay, now that we've covered some of the fundamentals that I think will help reduce the learning curve, let's move deeper into the stage level. In Solaris, if I want to add things like a plane, hit tab over here, and it's going to pop up the tab menu, and then I can type what I'm looking for. In Houdini, a plane is a grid, so grid. Once I drop that down, you just click the mouse button and it'll drop it there for you. And the great thing about Houdini is if you want to know what the input is or the output is, you just hover over that and it'll tell you. You can now set this as the display, so it'll show this, but there's no lights. This is like similar to Blender and Cycles or other render engines. You can drop geometry into a scene, but without lights, you're not really going to see what's going on. So let's do that. Let's put some lights so we can see what we're looking at. I want a physical sky actually, so let's do this. Karma physical sky. If I drop that into the scene, there is no effect for a reason. Currently, the view is set on the grid node, which is our plane. There is nothing set to view on the physical sky. However, if I set the view to the physical sky here, we're going to lose the grid. See, the grid disappeared. Now we have some light, HDRI type physical sky, but we can no longer see the grid. So important, if we're going to do that, you have to think of it like it's executing code in sequence of how you connect these nodes together. So if I connect the grid into the physical sky, which is displayed, in theory, now it's going to display everything in the chain. Boom. And now we got our plane. Now, say I want more geometry objects in this scene. And you could be importing assets, and it works the same way. It's a different node, but we'll get to there. This is just a simple introductory course. So next, let's just say, okay, I'm going to put in a different shape. So let's go with a sphere. And now I have the option to drop this over here, but again, it needs to be a part of our network, so I'm going to connect it. There's our sphere. I'm able to move it with the handles. Now you can see we're getting shadows. We have light. We actually have a scene starting to come together. Now the next step here is I would say, well, maybe I want these materials, these geometry objects, to have materials. So you can go over here, press tab. We're going to go material library. We're going to throw that into the network. So now that I have a material library, I have the ability to dive deeper in here, and I get a new level within Solaris, but this is the Vex builder. Inside here, I can create a Karma material. Now, this is really interesting. If I hold Alt and drag, I can duplicate that material. So now I have two separate materials. If I want to apply this material, I can drag it and drop it on the item. Now, if I dive into this material, we have some properties that we can start to dial in, some color of our objects. And just play with it until you get something you like. Hop back out over here, go over to this material. And then we start to get some interesting things. Now we can move up to the stage level again. Now we have some materials. That's how it created this assign material node too, when I dragged and dropped the material onto the object. And what this does is this actually, you can assign your materials from this node. So if I put another object in the scene and I wanted it to have one of the materials we already created, we could just use this to link it. Or if we wanted to create a new material, then we could link it from here as well as just dragging it into the viewport and dropping it. In case your scene starts to get very complex and that becomes more difficult. But for now, what we'll do is we'll add a camera node. So I'm going to drag it off and type camera. Okay, and then I can put the display on the camera. And if I choose over here that camera, it'll give me that perspective of the camera. Okay, and right now we're not seeing those items that we created. So one way I can do it is I can click lock camera to view. Get out of the CPU, the render view just for a second. Drag this off. We're going to do Karma node. And that's going to make 2 nodes for you when you type that. And here you can dial in our render settings. So we're just going to take one picture. We're going to choose, where are we going to put that? Put it right in there. Tutorial render. We go to our render up, render to mplay, and there it is. And then we have a, oh, yeah. There we have a simple geometry render out of Solaris.